Hi there, Matty from Matty's Custom Scale. And I thought I would, although mid-build and mid-build off, I thought I'd take this opportunity to give a quick tour of the body kit that's come together for a 1967 Mustang Fastback, inspired by the new Mustang GTD Widebody. And so this is the Shelby GT-350 body from AMT that I've designed the body kit around. And with most of the heavy bodywork done, I thought I'd just show the kit, which is mostly in the grey resin, printed resin, and the kit body, which is obviously in white, and how I made those cuts so that if you ever want to use this wide body on this kit, you can see what I've done, and hopefully that becomes a guide. So we've got the main bodywork on the body here. The rear wing is just held in with some blue tack for now, just to get some positioning and bearings. And then I'll talk through a couple of the other pieces which will add to the kit, but haven't been put on yet, mostly because I'll paint them different colors and then attach them later on. So the way I've printed this is rear quarter panels are one piece, side skirts one piece, the whole front clip, so the front guards and the front bumper are one piece. These inserts, the grille inserts, is one piece. The vented quarter windows are one piece. On the rear, there's some ducting work for rear-mounted coolers or radiators that's part of the, or replaces the boot lid, with a dovetail rear wing and a different style of opening. That's all one piece as well. Then I've also designed replicas of the GTD door handles in two pieces. So one piece is the inset of the handle itself, and the second piece is the actual handle. So what you can see from the white kit section is I've taken the cuts from, this is the front quarter or front fender. I've left the front as is, but then I've cut along the crease on the corner, so the actual corner of the fender. And I've almost gone all the way back to the door line. Most of it has been cut around the door line, but what I've kept is a little bit of a landing zone for the printed items to sit on, just to help with some of the positioning. Down the door line, and then again, I've left a little bit of a triangle just so that the quarter panel can land on it, and I've put that quarter panel corner right onto the door line as well. All the front's been removed, and I've just used a little bit of filler, you can see there, to transition the kit front nose onto that fender. Yeah. So obviously this is sanded a little bit cleaner. This side's a little bit of a work in progress, but the same sort of process on one side as the other. So underneath, the actual kit will finish about here. This will be the kit as well, and the rest will be printed. So once you've got things in the right position, you can cut away the actual kit sections. For the rear quarter, the factory vents for the GT350 would sit about here. So I've cut into those vents, and just where it transitions, just behind that rear door, you can see a little bit of the white after the door line. I'll smooth that down, but essentially up to the crease on the top of the vents and down to the crease on the bottom of the vents, that's been cut out. You can see from the inside section on the other side in a little bit more detail what that's looking like. I'll just get a pointer. So it comes down around here. Yeah, that allows the vent that sits on the inside. So this is actually a vented fender. The vent will sit where the old vent was, and then you've got that ducting ready to go. And so what I've also printed are these ducts that transition from that side pod into a round, and that allows you to route it to brakes or to the rear coolers. Yeah. The side skirt itself just fits between the two. A little bit of massaging. It is a printed kit, so you are going to get some variations between the printer and the resin and the settings, etc. So you do have to finesse it by hand a little bit. But this is actually the prototype kit, so this is the first version that's been printed. So this is not like version 10 that's had all the finessing done. This is the first one off the printer, right? So I've gone with it. It's close enough, and there'll be some adjustments into the final design, but it works, yeah. So the side skirt goes through, and you should be able to match the curvature of the exhaust exits. Try to get a good view of it with the bottom of the fender. So it should be that same transition down, and then it tucks in underneath the front fender. Okay. For the door handle itself, it was, the shape is there, but I've done it kind of old school. I've placed it over the top, used a marker to mark out the area, and then used a knife to cut it out and just finessed it until I got the position I wanted. The way I've managed the lines is the pointed front and back in line with the crease line of the door. Yeah, and then I just eyeballed the distance from the back of the door line to where I thought it was about right. The rear quarter windows, they should just be a straight fit. So cut out the kit blank and place those in. And like I said earlier, they've got their own vent as well that transitions into a round piece that you can put any kind of piping or tube to make that work. For the rear piece, I've cut out where the trunk lid would go. So the way the kit comes, there's a bit of a recess of where the trunk lid would go. So I've cut that recess out, and that's replaced it. And then this one piece that sits where the rear would go anyway. So it does sit in place. And then the way I've managed that transition is just by sanding and filing and wet sanding until I got it smooth enough. Yeah. So now I guess I'll show some of the other attachments. So this is the rear wing. You can see some blue tack on the bottom. It is curved to try and match the curvature of this mounting area. And then there's two pins that will position it into two holes on either side of the wing, so you get them positioned correctly. And the way I'm lining it up is to sit over the dovetail or ducktail of the lower wing, right? So that's kind of what I'm going for. The rear lower section, that's all one piece. There's a locator just there, and these two uprights will locate them as well. And so once you've got this rear section on, it will seamlessly thread through. There'll be a hole just under that section to locate them, and then those side pieces will find their natural spot on that rear fender. That's the way it'll sit, and there should be enough room for the tyre to fit in there as well. Then rear lights vent and fuel filler panel. One side is curved, one side is cornered. Cornered side up, so curved side down, and it will fit into this recess like that. Okay. These vents should be transparent, because if there's venting coming in to cool down some coolers, then it needs to vent back out. So the idea was to have those. The design of the back taillights is similar to the 67 GT500, but I've angled everything closer to the GTD, and that will sit inset. And there's also a fuel filler there. It's like a quick fuel attachment that will sit in there as well. Now for the tail lights, the kit comes with some blanks. So you can print these, and then that allows you to stencil out clear styrene or red tinted styrene and place your tail lights in. You can do it with resin, but the option's there. That gives you the sizing to sit within the inset of the tail lights. Yeah. Exhausts. So the exhaust tips look like that, both sides. And it's really designed to follow the same curvature as what's going on with the rear quarter and side skirt. All right. So once you get them positioned, it should fit flush, and that allows you to get a different color on the tail pipe or side pipe, and get a little bit of a detailed look on the side. Mirrors. So these are small GTD style mirrors, and I'll try and get a better close up of those. There we go. So these are curved mirrors. You can see the curve from the top. That's a better view. With the side piece, and actually that's a tiny little mirror adjuster that I added for fun, because I like tormenting myself with detail on builds. So that curve is meant to curve rearwards, and you can see I've cut away the corner glass, but then left a tiny section of it towards the corner, and then that allows me to land the position of that mirror. So the mirror goes on like that, both sides. Yep. It's optional. I thought it was a nice detail to go and add. It'll fit the 67, but it's shaped like the GTD. Okay, door handles. So if you can see those door handles, they're still on the printed base. They will slot into that section. I normally print a few. They are quite small, so as you're printing, cleaning, cutting, painting, going through the whole process, there'll be some sacrifices, and then at the end you should end up with two. Door handle recess and door handles themselves, they're identical on both sides, so don't need to get too worried about that, but they are longer on one end, and I've chosen to do the longer end towards the front, more of a curved end on the back. Okay, what else we got? The hood for the front. Now the GTD's got a throwback to the 2007, I think, Shelby GT500, so the same scoops, but it does have the quick release latches inset into the hood, so that's all inset. That dark section is actually inset. And so like the rear tail lights, it does come with some blanks to help you get the position in case you want to cut some mesh to fit behind. There's some space for the mesh there. And it's important to make sure that these sections stick out at the front, at least on this version, because it transitions from one width for the kit to another width for the nose section. Okay, then you can see the curvature there of the hood, like that body line, and you can kind of see how far those vents come up. Yeah, but I've continued that same crease line all the way through as well. That's the way it will sit. I've not yet gotten to adding in the, well, actually cut the internal panels out. And what I could have done is actually still left where the hood sits on, but I'll have to go and add those back in. Now for the vents, I've chosen to fill those in. So you can still see them because the way I filled them in is with some resin used for 3D printing. I've put that on, used a UV light to harden it up and then sanded it flat, and then just repeated that process a few times. But I did want a cleaner look. I also got rid of all of the molded in window molds around it. You can still see the rear window because that's actually inset, but again, I've got some resin over that. The black is what's left over from primer from sanding. Front lower, you can see these little winglets on the side and the large air dam, and if you look underneath the body, there'll be a few things. So there's these little sections or tabs or insets, and that's where these winglets will sit. Everything starts to get quite small nose locators, so if there is some distortion in printing, you might need to do a little bit of sanding, but the idea is you locate this front section in like that. Yeah. So locate the sides and the front comes together and sits flush. And then within those, the black primer is in there, but just in this section here, there is a vent, and that's the round section of the vent exit there. So again, you can add some piping in for the brakes if you want. I've kept these as two separate pieces because I think it'll look better once it's painted to have body color bumper and then maybe carbon fiber or a gunmetal gray front splitter. If we stay on the front, right now I've got the grille section in two pieces. So this is the outer piece, which can come in a few different styles, I think, in the future. But right now I've replicated the, see if we can get a better view of that, the Mustang Pony grill bar. You can see the pony in the middle. These are meant to be ducted spotlights. So obviously the ducting in the middle, and then I've got a little bit of a channel that runs around the lights, and that's where you can add a little bit of a highlight as far as some lighting or neon or body color, whatever suits. It fits in within those same dimensions. There's some locators on either side. You can decide how far forward or back it goes. Right now the grille outer is a little bit distorted because it's printed thin, but once you start gluing things down, you'll see how it kind of takes its shape. Then the way to mount this is actually from the rear, just because of the angles that it's made. So coming from the engine bay, line the bottoms up, and there. Okay, and you can see that distortion from the printing process underneath, but then as I push down, that gap closes, right? So just as you're gluing, make sure those are covered. Getting these front sections right is going to help when it's time to put your hood on. If there is some distortion, you haven't glued it quite right or cut it quite right, that's okay. Personally, I don't pull everything back apart again. I just manage with some sanding and finessing. It's never going to be perfect, so I don't create the headache of trying to make it perfect. So let me just make sure I've gone through all of the pieces. So you've got your rear wing, hood, front splitter, rear splitter, grill bar, rear light panel, rear light blank, exhaust tips, hood blanks, fuel filler, vents for the rear quarters, or ducting for the rear quarters, mirrors, door handles, door handle, insets, rear quarters, quarter windows, the rear section, side skirts, front nose cone, and then the vent sections. Yeah. So hopefully that all makes sense. Now I've also replicated the Mustang GTD wheels. They might come with the kit as well. Or you'll choose to do some other wheel. Wheel's always a personal choice, but I thought they worked out quite good. So it's the same style, but I've made them quite a bit deeper for a bit more attitude. And I've added a Formula One style center lock nut that comes with it. But yep. So the rears are a heavy dish and quite wide, and the fronts are not as dished and not as wide. Yeah, but personal choice. Go and enjoy it. One thing I didn't mention is these are the speed latches that I've printed separate or created separately that fit into that inset, which is going to make detailing much easier. And it's not just a flat piece, there is some definition of some lines. It's all very thin because the one-to-ones are quite thin as well, but with some panel line if you want, or depending on what color you choose, it does get you a good look. Yep. So hopefully some of you enjoy the task of building it. It's not a basic kit, but I thought it was a very cool idea, and I reckon it's worth sharing with others in case they want to have a go at doing it as well. So enjoy, tag me and let me know how you go with it. Cheers.